My name is Dr. Saira, and I'm very, very honored to introduce Monique Peck, who's the author of The How. And tonight she's going to be answering questions, doing a little bit of teaching, and our session will be about an hour. If you have questions, please type them in the chat. That's the best way to ask your question. And then as we're going along, I'll be monitoring the chat and letting Monique know when questions come through. And you can type your question in at any time, and then we'll address it as soon as there's an opportunity for that. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and let's dive in.
I wasn't sure how much of this I was going to share, or even if I would start with that. But every time I look at connecting in on one of these other pieces, it just brings me back to this. So I might paraphrase a little bit, but I'm going to talk about this paradigm shift of how we understand the human. And when we are addressing alignment, misalignment, what that's all about, where we're trying to get to from where we are, why we're there, why we do the presence protocol. If we just did it to regulate the nervous system, but we had no destination, or we had no greater awareness of shifting out of a protective system, a very contracted, restricted system, and shifting back into our expanded state, that would be a very limited approach. And we're seeing that done. So it's not like these pieces, the individual pieces, aren't familiar and haven't worked at certain times, but they can be a little hit and miss. And for me, it's the destination and the intention of where you're trying to go to from where you are in the moment. That's such a key piece. And we're going to focus on that a lot in the upcoming Q&As and our other teaching, and even some of our programs, where it's not just about getting out of suffering and just getting to being okay and just kind of feeling okay and some relief. That's great, but I think we can all agree that that's not where we want our lives to end up being. We want it to be big life. I want a big life. I want big jubilation, passion, excitement. I want these kinds of emotions. I want these kind of responses. I want deep connection. I want these big life moments. And so really that's what this is about. This work is about. Yes, it's about healing and coming up to that place where we can recognize and then easily and more and more and more easily enter into that expanded state, so we can have that holy shit life moment. So this is something, like I said, I've been putting it together for a while because it's been so on my heart that we need to start to see our experience as humans a little bit differently than we've understood it to this point. So up until this point, and that's why it was so important for me to put that at the beginning of the book, why do we believe we are who we are and how we function? What is that thinking around that? And where does that come from? And what collection of information over time and over generations has contributed to that understanding? And over the evolution of mankind, our understanding around really big core pieces of life have changed radically over time. So I think it's okay to recognize that it's time to evolve our thinking about how we function: mind, body, spirit, energy, universe, unified field of energy and information. So the old paradigm, we kind of know where that's kind of come from, and the key features. We look at the self, or we look at the human as a fragmented self, the mind and body and emotions, and even the nervous system responses to things, and then our energetic or spiritual response to things are kind of looked at separately and approached separately. Primacy of thinking, so thoughts and behaviors are most important, not our inner state and those deeper places. External authority. Experts outside of us diagnose, and treatments are seen as the main source of healing, while inner knowing is overlooked. Linear cause and effect. Past experiences are viewed as fully determining present struggles, while reinforcing the idea that patterns are inevitable. Identity tied to adaptation. Who we are is often confused with the protective strategies we learned to survive instead of the self beneath those strategies. So we're looking at symptoms, we're looking at patterns of thought and behavior, we're looking at all these outer things to determine who we are, and that's not working so well. So this piece around sovereign agency and having our inner experience directed by the intuitive mind rather than the cognitive mind is a really important key piece to this. So our paradigm, the two-state model, then shows the difference between the misaligned state and the aligned state. And when we're looking at what we're experiencing on all levels, we then turn to that to see, well, where are you in your alignment? And that is a key to shifting that around. So if you're in a protective state and a self-protection mechanism, you're going to be very limited in your experience. Your perception narrows, the rational mind dominates, and energy goes toward anticipating danger, because that is the purpose of that mechanism. So that is what it prioritizes, and that's what will be happening. And none of us are having a great, big, huge, I love life experience when we are living in anxiety and anticipating the next danger around the bend. Emotional reactivity rises, clarity fades, and authentic self-expression feels unsafe. Protective strategies like perfectionism, people-pleasing, control, withdrawal, all those adaptations arise automatically and are mistaken for personality. The aligned state is a state of coherence and connection. Often what we're looking for by our circumstances is available to us internally. Connection with ourselves, others, and the larger field of life. The intuitive mind, heart brain, and gut brain systems work together, giving us access to deeper intelligence. Creativity, presence, and compassion arise naturally. From this state, we experience ourselves as whole and capable, rather than broken or lacking. And I talk about this on page 21. When we put our intuitive mind, and I chose those words very, very deliberately because this is a choice and it's an action. It's an intention. We can choose when we notice that our rational mind is in charge and we're kind of racing ahead and thinking of the past to predict and inform us for our future choices. When that's happening, we can choose to put our intuitive mind in charge. Our higher self, true essence, or inner observant, in charge, we have an expanded experience, unlocking the full potential of the human mind and body systems, unrestricted by self-protection mechanisms. We also gain access to broader perspective, boundless life force energy, and limitless creative possibilities that exist in the unified field. So those two pieces, alignment and misalignment, and sovereign agency, which says that in any moment we have the ability and we have the right to choose what system we're going to be operating within. That belongs to each and every one of you and each and every one of us in humanity. And that isn't really recognized and fully embraced in our current approach to the human. So this was so important to me to get really defined. So even without, this is the hard part about writing a book, when you're done and you go, I still didn't quite get that piece. And this was the piece for me. So even going back into why do we do the presence protocol? what system are we shifting out of, and what are we reaching towards? And the other questions around that is it's based in this foundational principle and this particular paradigm shift. And this is why it's so hard to do, because we'll be in that automatic reactive pattern that's been accepted for so long. And then we realize, okay, we are introduced to this information, but it's not part of our everyday normal response to things. And we have to remember, and we have to be reminded, and it's a practice, and it's a tricky thing. So more than anything, I want people to realize that we all go through that. I'll be right in the middle of something, and more than anything, I think, oh, I really should know better, and still it can catch me off guard. So I want people to be excited at the possibility of living this bigger, bolder way. So that's a recap of this. It's not the whole document, and we are making some big changes to our website to really bring this front and center. So that's what I wanted to start off with tonight, as far as a little bit of teaching. But beyond that, I would like to open it up for some initial questions or even responses to this information coming through. So is there anything we want to address right now?
So you can put your questions in the chat, or you can press the hand raise button and we can call on you if you'd like to share your voice instead.
Okay. The initial piece that I wanted to talk about today was the presence protocol and break down some things. Oh, Stacy, please go ahead.
So Stacy, you can just unmute.
Hi, Monique.
Hi.
I was trying to type and realized it was just way easier to speak. I just want to say thank you for sharing and reminding me and everyone that it's a practice. I think that relates to my question. I've been sharing the presence protocol and the presence breath with a family member, and I've gotten it doesn't work. And I've been just encouraging that it can take time. And what came up for this person was, I don't think I know what relaxed feels like.
Oh.
And I think there's some truth in that. I just wondered if you had any guidance or words of wisdom for folks when they're just new, right, to this, and kind of like, they're open to hearing this and listening and giving it a try, but maybe feel discouraged.
Right. Okay. When I'm working with someone, or not even working with someone, but talking to someone, and this is very new to them, then we mostly start with the nervous system regulation part of the breath. And then sometimes just that piece doesn't work for them. Sometimes they need some additional things. So there are a lot of somatic tools for settling the nervous system. I think the thing that I end up explaining with them at that really rudimentary level is we can't calm our mind without calming the body, and we can't even think properly or access any kind of clarity when the mind is racing and the body is dysregulated. Those are so closely linked. Even when I was digging into this initially, it was like, well, sometimes people get here through calming the mind, and some people get here through the somatic releases of the nervous system. So those two things working together, I find that if people understand that initial language of, when you're just really ramped up, you can't think clearly, because that is such a quick response, and most everybody can recognize that part. I think if they can't drop down below the nervous system response and that high anxiety, or that whatever the response is, maybe they're really angry, maybe they're anxious, maybe they're really low and depressed. If they can't shift out of that, they really can't get to the place where they're going to get the intuitive insight. So to start with just calming the body in some additional ways, maybe some tapping. There's lots of different techniques, right? So there's some different things that I've done with people where we go beyond just the presence breath, and then we add a few things. So on our website previously, I had some downloads that are some acupressure points. So there's one here, and that's the adrenal gland. And there's another one here, and that's the diaphragm. It just helps to open that up. It's kind of at the solar plexus level. There is this one, which is just a major gate. It's the same one between your big toe and the next toe. And that just helps the nervous system settle down, because also, unless somebody is out of that really reactive state, they're not going to hear much. They're not going to really hear new truth, and they're not even going to hear their own truth, because they're going, this can't work, this doesn't work, because they haven't settled down below that. So depending on who that person is, or what you think they're open to, or what you think they might try. I know this one, this tapping just under the collarbone, just here, can be really, really helpful for people. But some people aren't open to trying those things, and that can be really tricky as the helper. So the number one thing is for you to allow them to have whatever experience they're going to have, and release that within yourself so you can hold that higher vibration. Because whether they are open in the moment, that will just build trust in the relationship and build trust in what you're bringing and what you're sharing and what you'd like to try with them, or maybe try this or maybe try that. But settling the body can settle the mind. When the mind slows down below that high beta, then they can start to hear, because those pieces are all part of coming into that space where we are led by our intuitive mind, and we're out of that reaction. We're out of that nervous system response to whatever's going on in the moment. So I would add some somatic things. Look at some things that you think this person might try, and start there. And until they can enter that relaxed state, doing the full protocol where they're looking at their emotions, they're probably not going to get anywhere with that at the time. You can point out that the emotion indicates that they're in this dysregulated state, but as far as them kind of really being able to observe that's tricky unless they can relax and let go.
Thank you for those strategies. Like what came up for this person was going outside, and that's a brilliant idea. But I love the idea in case you can't. Right? This is a very subtle thing to do. You could do that even with other people around, like, with the acupressure points and things. So I'm going to suggest that. And as you were talking, what was coming up for me was remembering the win is just the recognition. Like, to even if it's not working, do you know what I mean? Even if the activation is there, seeing it.
Yes.
And noticing that is actually a win. And I think sometimes it's like, I forget that. I wonder if, and I want to be able to pass that on too.
Yeah.
So, right. That awareness. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Stacey. The first part of the protocol even is to focus and observe. And just when you're out of the reaction, you're no longer in the reaction. So if you can have this person do that, that's a win. Absolutely. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. Any other questions? I would do the Jeopardy hold song, but I don't think any of us need that. All right. Talking about the presence protocol. A lot of this, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer questions I've gotten from people in the past. And what usually happens is you answer those questions and other people have had those same questions. So we're going to do some of that. somebody made the comment, are you trying to hide the presence protocol? I can't see it on your website. Not really, not broken down. And we took that to heart. We went, oh yeah, wait a minute. Because again, we're doing this work and we're offering it here and we're doing it over there and we're sharing it over here. We really want to make this upfront, accessible for people and break it down so that we know exactly what we're doing and why. Because unless you kind of have a target that you're moving towards, you're just kind of wander around and it's hit and miss. And something very key and very important to us is that this is repeatable and predictable. And you can then take step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, knowing where you're going to go, and you can get there, or even recognize, oh yeah, I am not letting that go, and I can see that, and that's why I'm not reaching that. But it can become a very predictable destination, and that's what we want. So when we broke down the presence protocol, a lot of these things will be familiar to you, and even the work I was doing before in different practices, it's pieces from several places, and really what we're doing is connecting some dots and connecting a kind of an underneath foundational piece that we know is really important. But yeah, you're going to recognize some of these things as being in use in different places, different practices. So the presence protocol, let me see, where did I put that? Tab. Okay. All right. The 3 pillars of the presence protocol. We're restoring the nervous system. So while you're in a nervous system response, we are going to we're in the self-protection mechanism. We can't access everything that's available to us when we're not in that state. So our natural state, and this is so dear to my heart, we're not trying to get into an expanded state. We're not taking steps to reach enlightenment and get somewhere. What I want us to recognize is that's our natural state. We just need to release the self-protection response or the self-protection mechanism that we have clicked back into. It's kind of like if your computer is running on safe mode and you go, okay, a safe mode, I got to switch that. However you do that, I don't know. I'm sure I'm not even using the right words. I need to disable that. Disable the safe mode. We need to get back into being able to use our entire system and then access beyond that. So we're just disabling or releasing that response that is indication that we're in a self-protective mechanism. So that is our fight, flight, freeze, fawn response. So we do that with the somatic work, but we also do that with our intention of knowing where we are, knowing where we're going to go. When I started doing this work, and Texas and I started doing this work together a long time ago, I was 24. It was done just with intention, just with the recognition that based on our emotions, we could see if we are being heart-led or ego-led. And we could then choose, just in that intention switch, choose to be heart-led or spirit-led. I guess because there was some prayer involved with that, because that was part of a religious process, there was some releasing that happened in that. But it was very undefined and a little, a little bit hard to get to. But we practiced that for a long time, and going back to incorporating that just with the intention shift, I know that that's possible. But when you're working against your body and your nervous system because you're in this state, then that can be really, really hard to do. So restoring the nervous system is really important to just get your body on board. So you're not fighting your body. You want your mind and your heart and your body to all be in alignment with your truth and with what you're accessing through your intuitive mind from the field. Releasing subconscious blocks and identity adaptations. Because part of the protocol is seeing what it has arisen, and with that awareness, you will be shown, especially when you do release that response and you open up to being shown by your intuitive mind what's actually happening in your system, because there is a pattern that has been triggered that probably has quite a few different touch points, and it has a root somewhere, and you're accessing that because that's how your body's designed. This is how your mind's designed, to look back at an old response. What did we learn from that? We better do that here because we're taking that into our future. So there's something activated in that moment. And when we see what's there, allow ourselves to see what's there, maybe a memory is replaying in our mind. We see it in our mind. We may hear an old conversation taking place, or we may hear a repeated message that was given to us over time by a parent or authority figure. You're stupid. Why'd you do that? What's wrong with you? We may hear that, right? We're in a response. We hear these things. What's wrong with you? We may see someone's glaring eyes looking at us when they're asking, what's wrong with you? And you may be remembering other times where you've done these same stupid things that I just did just now. And how did I feel and how did I respond? Well, I felt lousy and I hid. And I'm safe to this point in time, so I guess I'll do that again. I'm just going to be consumed with guilt. I'm going to be totally embarrassed. I'm going to hide in my room, and I'm just going to avoid that person, and maybe they'll just go away and I won't have to deal with it again. That's when we allow ourselves to see the emotion, what are we seeing? What are we hearing? What are some beliefs that may come up, like these, what's wrong with you, or you can't be trusted, or you'll never get this right, or these things that we tell ourselves. We start to unravel what these current day reactions actually represent. And as they are activated in our system, when we start to release the nervous system response to things that are like this in this grouping, that response starts to weaken. So that's a really important part of seeing what's currently activated. And then expanding into the unified field and intuitive intelligence. This is such an important piece. It's like, why are we doing this? We're not just trying to regulate the nervous system so we can stop suffering for the moment and just be okay. That big, expansive, big perspective, big emotion, creative ideas, inventive ideas come from the field. Anything that's brand new comes from the field. And when we have released that self-protection mechanism that's been activated, we naturally open up to the field through the intuitive mind. So this is the destination, and it's a moment by moment by moment destination. It isn't, I'm going to meditate, and after 2 or 3 or 4 hours, if I can calm my mind enough, I may enter into this mystical space. Our heart here is that's where you're supposed to live. That's where you're supposed to live. This is where you're supposed to interact with and draw from. And you can have inventive, creative, big ideas in any moment. And sometimes those moments are in the middle of the most difficult times, difficult interactions, or difficult moments in your circumstances where all of a sudden you can recognize that you're in this self-protection mechanism. Shift out of that by calming the nervous system, calms the body. Calming the body calms the mind. The mind can go into a meditative state when it's in an alpha brainwave pattern, and we can then open up into accessing all that is here for us, and that is meant to be part of our moment by moment experience. So I'm just going to read this. This is from page 119. Expanding into the unified field and intuitive intelligence. When the rational mind quiets and subconscious blocks dissolve, a natural expansion into higher states of consciousness occurs. This is where intuition, creativity, and direct knowing become accessible. Learning to navigate reality from an expanded, non-linear intelligence rather than ego-based control, and accessing deep states of connection to the unified field, we start to have a direct experience of how we are designed to live. And this is that paradigm shift that we're talking about. This is meant to be your life. So no wonder that things aren't working for people. No wonder that there's so much unhappiness and unrest and violence. And because if we take this part out of the human experience, we're just going to spend our life looking for it. And we're going to look for it in all the wrong places. We're going to look for it in other people. We're going to look for it in fleeting moments and not know how to get back there. We are searchers. We are searching for this all the time because it's part of our makeup. So how do we just take this part out of the human? You just can't. And it just doesn't work. So when we are doing the presence protocol, it's so important to keep this in mind. If you can look at where am I at right now and just do the checklist, which I know is like the most boring thing and nobody ever talks about it. It's like my favorite page. So we're going to do that one next. When you can look at that and go, I'm not going to see things right because right now I know I'm misaligned. I'm going to release whatever this is. I'm also going to get insight into what got me here in the first place because that's part of it. When we can do that, come back into alignment, then take that greater perspective into what that thing was, which will start to weaken it and it's going to lose that power over you. That's the point. So going, okay, I want to be expanded. I'm not right now. I'm off. I'm this, I'm that, whatever. I'm just going to release this, get back into expansion, access intuitive knowing, and move forward. Okay, there's a question, I think. And I think we can take a moment for that.
It's a comment, actually.
Oh, okay.
And maybe if you could actually speak to, I have a bit of a question around this. So I've been having this experience a lot where I'm not going to see things right because right now I'm misaligned, and that feeling of I should know better, right? And then that kind of a lot of kind of not a lot, but a little bit of time going into that piece of and then doing when I have space to do the presence protocol, like say if I can get away for 30 seconds and do the breath. But sometimes it's right in the middle of a conversation with somebody I love. And then I find it hard to really kind of come back. So do you have any suggestions on in the moment when right now maybe I can't because I'm speaking to someone face to face, but I'm feeling all of that come up? Anything? And I know I'm not okay. I know I'm off, but it's like, how to not go back into that contracted state.
I think two things. First of all, you're not going to get it all right, and that's okay. And there's so much grace. I mean, we're doing this whole human experience thing to experience and to learn and to taste different things and to have a full buffet of good and bad and sour and sweet and all of those things. And when you're in that moment, you're like, oh, but I can't quite, got the momentum is going and you're just in it. It's okay. There's room, there's time, there's space. Fix it later, do whatever. It's okay. This is a muddle your way through kind of life, and it's all okay. There's lots of space. A second thing is, I think maybe because we learned in this certain method, in this certain way of switching with awareness and intention, that it's easier to do that now, and maybe that is because of that foundation. But as there's a lot of practice with this, you will find that you can start to do the switch, and you're probably doing it already all kinds of times, but sometimes you're really caught up in something and it's harder to do. You can make the switch just with that, just with the intention. And this is something I want to speak to anyway, so this is really good. A lot of people go, this is really cumbersome. And, really all these steps every time, do the thing and do it again and do it again. It gets simpler, it gets quicker, it gets easier. It can be driving, just, recognize it, just breathe out, shift, just play with it and see how quickly you can shift at different times. This is probably something I'll be writing about and speaking to as we go forward, because it isn't this cumbersome process for me anymore. It's very rarely do I have to fully go into it. And then, because I fairly rarely have to go into it, sometimes I totally forget. I'll be just totally riled up in this state, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. It's crazy. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, well, I can't quite shift out because my nervous system's really dysregulated. And well, yeah, there's a technique for that.
Can I give you an example of something that happened just yesterday, Monique?
Yeah.
So I was in the car with my kids. We had this wonderful day at the lake, and we'd parked and we were going to pick up some food. And I got like, okay, it's time to have this conversation about the future and maybe moving cities in the future. And I felt like the whole time I'm having the conversation, it was very uncomfortable for them, but I was in alignment. Like I kept checking, and it was good, and it was good, and I was good, and it was uncomfortable, but it was important.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got home and I told my husband about it, and he's like, oh, like maybe that wasn't the best timing. They're starting school tomorrow. Like that's maybe you didn't get that. And I just felt this flood of like shame.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat with that, and it did, like, I thought in the moment that it was all right, but it didn't occur to me, right? The timing, like it just didn't, I didn't feel anything about that. But then when he said that, it was like, oh, you're right. Like that's true. And so then I went back to the kids, and I was like, and my kids are teenagers, and I said, after talking to your dad, I realized like that was really poor timing on my part, and I wanted to apologize to you for that. And they just, like, that apology, because I could feel the tension, right? Like we get in the house and everybody's like kind of slammed away, and I could feel like, oh, something's not right. And so after kind of getting that reality check from him, I went back and apologized, and it's like it almost broke a spell. Like just saying that, it's like broke a spell, and then it's everything softened. But it was energetic, like it wasn't anything anybody said or dirty looks or stomping, but it was just in the field. I could feel like they're not okay, and now I'm not okay, and now I'm feeling ashamed. So it's happening really, really fast. But I sometimes feel like maybe I'm not in alignment then when I had that original, but at the time it felt right. So can you speak to that?
Yeah. What's so interesting is people learn about intuition, that they can access intuition. This is a general thing, and it comes up all the time. And now, because they feel like they could access intuition, that they better get it right every time. So that's one thing. And then also, if it was right and it was intuitive, and it felt right at the time, why did it have this kind of response? So that's looking for an outcome, which we do, right? We kind of go, oh, it's the right time to say it, so it's going to be received, and we tend to do that. And sometimes you just don't know. Like there's times where I go, oh, I thought that was right. I don't know if it was right. Sometimes going back and trying to figure out if it was or wasn't, I can't land on it. I can't find it. I'm not really sure. And it's like, this is where it's so important to just consider that there's lots of grace to move forward, and you don't have to get it all right. So often a response that I get from people is, well, and I think it's that whole sense of, if I didn't know, then I couldn't get it wrong. And if I couldn't get it wrong, then I can't get rejected. It's a pretty core piece around our own personal safety. So it's a big piece around this. And we see it often with people not wanting to take responsibility for who they are and what's going on inside. And this awareness that they can access intuition, but what if I get it wrong? What if I get it wrong? So they'd rather go into never accessing it at all, and then just throwing it to the wind and going, well, I don't know. I can't help it. I don't know. I'm just reacting, responding, whatever. And I'm not even going to access my intuition. And that is it's such a loop. It's such a self-fulfilling, self-sabotage loop. So I would just encourage you to just walk your way through it and what's right in this moment. And then you feel into the next moment, you feel into the next moment. And if you go, oh, maybe that wasn't quite right, then always in the moment that you recognize maybe this, maybe that, I'm not sure. Then the thing is, what should I do now? Release, what should I do now? Release, what should I do now? Like really, the best you can, kind of clear it. And then what you discovered was in that moment going back to them and apologizing for the timing, and that was such an opening kind of experience for them and for you and for all of these things. Maybe the thing was right all along. I don't know. It's right. There's no way to go back, and often you just won't know going back, and it's okay. It's just okay. That core piece around, oh my God, what if I got it wrong? Recognizing that that's connected to something, to a belief that if you get it wrong, you're not lovable, you're not acceptable. That's a really common one for people. And it's one that's really important to speak to. So I really appreciate you bringing that forward and being so open about that. Because if I never try, I can never fail. That was a big one for me with the ADD behavior, to actually finish a book or to finish anything, and put it out there as something that I finished, especially a creative thing of any kind, was terrifying for me, and I just never did it until this. So it's just very natural for that to be really, really scary. So just be bold, step forward anyway, trust you got the best you can, and honor that, and then honor them, and you did. So there's no loss here. It's all good. Texas is going to speak. Thank you. Hello.
I'm figuring it out. Hi. I think one of the things that always comes up when I'm working with folks, and there's resistance to the presence protocol, is sometimes we're trying to hit a home run and we haven't learned to bat yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I talk a lot about using the presence protocol, and when you're not way off, you're not highly activated to start with. It's like, why bother? I know how to pick out my own shoes. I know where I'm going to go shopping. I know all these things. That's a great place to practice this in everyday life. For those of you who know me, we talk a lot about where do you buy your bananas, and getting some intuitive leading on those. So it becomes a place where we recognize that in those small things where there's not a ton of risk or activation, we can still get good leading. And the more we do that, we start to see, oh, really, there's not a lot of small things. Because if I'm doing that and finding those points of joy and fulfillment in the small things, I mean, really, life is a whole bunch of small things stacked end to end. So I encourage anybody who's, if you're trying to come through a marriage crisis and you've never used a presence protocol, that's probably a tough place to start. It can definitely help to regulate that, but that's asking an awful lot. So, so it is a practice, and practicing the small things, and finding out that when you're in alignment, those small things can give you great joy. It's not boring, right? And that's my, and also with Saira's last thing, if what you said, you can't look at the outcome of somebody's reaction to let you know whether you were in alignment or not. It just doesn't work like that. So that's my thing.
Right. Really good point.
I don't know how to do this, but you can click me off if you know how.
Yay. With the little things, the thing is that we're aligned or misaligned. So when you're just kind of grumpy, or you're a little sad, or you're just a little bit of something, release then. See the shift. See what you open into. Look for insight into that, because you're still touching into a neurological network around topics. So you're still weakening that, and you're still experiencing that shift, that inner shift back to alignment, where then you can receive some intuitive leading, even just in the small things. It's simpler, it's easier. If your first attempt with this is to dig into a big topic, like Texas was saying, either you're really trying to relieve this big root cause pain, maybe some deep trauma, maybe you're bringing up, or you're aware of some trauma from your past or from your childhood, and it's like, let's tackle that thing, and I'm going to do it on my own. That's just really, really big, and you're shifting into a system you're not really used to working or used to functioning. So that is also why we have advanced consciousness therapists that work with this, that help people walk through those deep core things, and also those big decisions, because sometimes that's really tough to navigate on your own. So yeah, click into the little things first if you're kind of feeling like it's hard to work with this. And it's really hard to do this. It's tricky, because the way we function generally, we look for outcome to help teach us that was a good thing to do, not a good thing to do. That looks safe, that doesn't look safe. That's still going to touch into that old system. So with what Saira shared, it could have been the right thing, the exact right thing, at the right time. And all of the things that followed may have been exactly what needed to happen. And you may not ever know, and that's okay, because it's always a moment by moment thing. And you check in, and is there anything I need to do about this now? Even if you know, oh, that wasn't good. And then still in this moment, you check in, you release and check in, and look for intuitive guidance on what to do next, and you do that thing. And it's always a presence protocol. It's always a moment by moment, in the moment, adjust, release, receive, and act way of living. So that's the answer to that. I hope that helped. Are there any more questions?
There's a comment.
Okay.
I could read it out. So Faizan said, maybe the moment was just to allow for the experience of so-called bad timing and practice of repairing. Our parents also had some bad timing growing up, so maybe it was just to allow us to experience it and heal it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very possible. Okay. I'm going to take you to my favorite page.
There's one more comment
Okay.
from Charlene. Oh my God, I did not realize my camera is on. I wanted to share my experimentation with doing the presence protocol before situations that may activate my nervous system. It has brought clarity and vision. Is there anything else you wanted to say? Nope. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlene. I really appreciate that. What's really cool is those little shifts that feel like little, like, or, I wouldn't use it for this, I wouldn't use it for that. What is so, it ends up building your resilience internally because you will make that slight adjustment and see that you're showing up differently and see that people are responding to you differently and see that you'll have a different insight or different perspective on a situation you're going into that normally is like this for you or is like that for you. Maybe it's going into the same work situation or a meeting with a boss or interaction with your kids or whatever that is. Those tiny shifts, because they do allow you to enter back into that expanded state, can have a profound impact on kind of deepening this experience and deepening this for you. So my favorite page, and it's super boring, and I'm going to go over this really, really quickly, and then we're just going to do a bit of release, is page 80. Page 80, and it's the checking in chart. Super boring, but so important. And I want us to recognize this. If one thing is off, it's all off. And we can then recognize it in different things. You can all of a sudden be imagining a conversation you're going to be having with a boss the next day. So that might be like, oh, I'm not present. I'm in the future. Okay, I'm misaligned. Or I've got anxiety, or I just feel a little irritated. Oh, I'm misaligned. Uncomfortable body sensations. You've got some, kind of ants in your pants kind of feeling, like there's just some energy that's not settled in your body. You're kind of got cloudy thinking. You just can't land on anything. You can't make a decision. It's just you're really having to reach for that. The focus on past or future, we've talked about that. And the sense of separation. That is so big, and we've been talking about that around here, recently. That sense of separation from others, and then you see that in others with each other as well. And that can really shift because we're not meant to have that sense of separation. We're really meant to have this sense of oneness and connection that may be hard to define, but you start to recognize that builds as you do this practice more and more and more, and you spend more time in that expanded state. You will have that sense of connection to all kinds of people. And for me, who was a hider and I like to just withdraw from society pretty much, then that was really huge for me to have that open up more and more and more and more and feel so connected to all kinds of people. It can be strangers. It can be someone you just met. It can be someone you see on TV. It could be someone that you heard about or know about, and you feel like you have a very direct connection to that person. So that is the beauty of this, is you don't have to pick it apart. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to know where you went off the rails. You don't have to know any of it. And in fact, you're not going to understand your way out of it, which is really key. When you release the activation and just let that go out of your body and let everything settle, including your mind, you will naturally come back into that state where you can access perspective on where you kind of got off the trail on whatever tangent you're on with this. So don't try so hard to figure that out on your own. That is kind of part of the old paradigm, and it just doesn't really work. So I'm not, what time do we
We
have?
have about 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay. What I'm going to do, rather than the full protocol, and I really meant to do that, and I apologize, meant to do that with you, is I'm just going to take us through the breath. And I want us to, in releasing whatever that is, and you can just do the breath at different times during the day, and you'll find that things open up, even if you don't identify what that's about. But just letting everything open up, and with the intention of connecting back in to who you really are, which is all of the unlimited, energetic part of you that extends way beyond you and then extends into and mingles with that part of everyone else, which is where that sense of connection really originates. That is that sense of, I belong. You can have that sense of belonging without the interaction with another human. You can experience that even without. So, with the intention of entering that space, releasing this self protection, and just coming back into that open space, that expanded space where you can receive, we're just going to do 3 breaths. So, just settling yourself where you feel really secure in your seat, and drop your shoulders down and back, closing your eyes. Just raising your eyes slightly as you breathe in. Hold at the top. And opening the jaw fully and releasing the eyes. Just let go. Whatever resistance, whatever struggle, whatever suffering is up for you internally that you're experiencing, it can just be released. So again, just raising the eyes, take a deep breath in, hold at the top, releasing the eyes and fully releasing the jaw. Just breathe out. And one last time. Because you're more than your human. You're more than your instincts. You're more than your self-protection. Just raising your eyes, taking a deep breath in, holding at the top, and just relaxing into who you really are. Let go of the eyes and the jaw. Just some easy breaths in and out. And if it feels like you're not quite there, and your body and your nervous system needs a little more help, maybe go for a walk outside, or do a big stretch with your arms above your head, or tap just under your collarbone. Whatever soothes your body and your nervous system, that's important work. You couldn't do anything more valuable than that right now. And recognize that as you settle the body and the nervous system, look for your mind to settle. Look for natural insight to arise. Look for those positive emotions. Just look for them. Because you will naturally come back into that system where you were meant to live when you release the other. I hope you enjoyed this interaction. Thank you for coming to the Q&A, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Thank you.